Super. How's everyone doing? I guess everyone's muted, but I'll just feel your energy and I'm guessing you're doing all good, right? Our next guest is Tara Boirard, who is an artist based here in New York. She I've gotten to know her for many years now because at Gallery AWA, we did three or four, I forget, exhibitions with her because I'm so fond of her work, her creativity, her energy, her spirit, um, that it's just always a pleasure to connect with her and to see what she's doing. So today we're going to speak about one of the exhibitions that we had worked on called You Are Powerful or Shakti in the goddesses amongst us, and she had done that exhibition with another friend of ours called Anshula, who's in Seattle, sorry, Portland, uh, different place, Portland, Oregon. And Tara is here with us today to talk about that as well as the work that she's doing currently. So, welcome, Tara. Good to see you.
Bay, first I wanted to say happy holidays to everybody and really thank the team at AWA, especially Abe and Justin. It's an honor to be part of the AWA family. And I have to just take a moment to tell a quick story. I consider myself to be somewhat woke, right? But you're always trying to challenge to kind of open my mind. And every interaction with Abe has caused me to be a little bit more introspective. So I do remember going to your 15th anniversary party at the DeRose studio,
Uh-huh.
and you had another team of meditation experts on. I think they were doing like a light meditation, those friends of yours. And
Yeah, year number three with Alison Pelletier. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you had a separate room set up where I think you took off your shoes and you went under this capsule that was full of light. So I kind of took it as just being an interesting thing to partake in, didn't think much of it, and went through it. I don't know how long it lasts, 5 minutes where you're kind of getting infused with this light. And afterwards I was crying, so I spoke with one of
Alison.
the Allison that was
Yeah.
facilitating it. Like, I don't know, Allison, did this do something to my eyes? Like, I'm tearing up. How long is the after effect going to take? And she's like, that's emotion. I was like, oh my God, she's right. I'm like going through something right now. So it was a total purging.
What is this thing coming out of my eyes? Why is it salty? Why is it? It's so beautiful. That's amazing.
Say thank you because you always help me have those experiences. Um, one of
Well,
the experiences,
yes. Sorry.
when
No, no, go
you
ahead,
invite,
please.
you invited me to be part of the Shakti exhibit with Anshula. It was a two-woman show, and it was really fascinating because it was this blend of East versus West.
Mhm.
I had a basic understanding of what Shakti was, Hindu goddess, also representing like this divine female energy. Um, but I wanted to attempt to interpret that without kind of co-opting Hindu culture, and kind of bring my own lens to it.
Mhm.
So, it was an interesting mix visually because Anshula's work was somewhat black and white, smaller scale, right? And somewhat traditional in terms of her type of print. And then my pieces were somewhat large scale, very colorful, and in many ways more of a Western vibe to them. But I think somehow the two pieces the two approaches really complemented each other. So in that show, it was kind of interpreting my view of what Shakti meant. And one of the pieces I come to think of is most of the pieces were female imagery, either female nudes or portraits of women. But there was one that I did was just a large scale boat, right? And in some ways it was a little bit out of place because all of the other pieces, even Anshula's, had people in all of the photographs, but that was really to represent the third passage a lot. There we go. That was to represent the third passage. A lot of the same themes that Rodney was discussing during his representation, and really to take a moment to think about the women that were at the bottom of that slave hold. This piece is entitled Because She Lived, because so many of us in the diaspora now in the United States, are here because some woman in the bottom of that ship actually lived, right? And then went on to kind of procreate, whether it was in the United States or in the West Indies. And then you have this whole additional culture that developed. So that was my interpretation of Shakti. A little bit about myself.
Yes.
I'm an artist. I think it's in the family DNA. My father is a well-known Haitian artist as well. But on the other side, my mother's side of the family, my grandmother and her twin sister were also artists. My brother is an artist. And then really wonderful to see is my 8-year-old son has the gene, and watching him start to create has been like one of the joys of my life, because I do think in that instance, it doesn't feel like nurture, it really feels like nature. And there's something else that's kind of transcending through the line. So it's a nice feeling. And, in that,
Does he still run around like Usain Bolt?
he does. It's
Yeah, he's quick.
all day long. Um, Abe had infinite patience when
I
I
love
brought
it.
all of the shows. He, made
Yes, he was a,
put energy into the place. We'll
yes,
just leave it.
yes.
Um, but it's been a nice journey because everybody has distinctly different styles, but we all kind of respect each other's style, feed off of each other, and are able to kind of inform and give thoughts about each other's work. So that's been kind of a nice part of life, I think. I don't know if we want to transition to some recent work, or if you have any.
I would love to, Tara. I would love to. Thank you for sharing, your pedigree. Her father is a very well-known artist. She's being very humble here, and his work is quite stunning. And we're really thankful to have Tara as one of our close friends. So love to see what you're up to since we did the last exhibition. As you know that because of COVID, gallery AWA, at least the physical space is kind of taking, a hiatus because there's nothing much to be done there because of the restrictions. But hopefully one day we will again work together, and love to see what you're up to. And I'm sure the audience would love to know what you're doing too. So
I would love that. I sent Justin some pics of some recent work that I did during the pandemic, except for this one. This one was probably done late last year. But I brought it up because, or I included it because, in the past few months, so deeply focused on the election and watching the electoral map in the red states and the blue states, and I had just finished this piece about the plight of the Haitian and the Haitian woman in the United States. And this piece was specifically about the Louisiana Purchase and what Haiti's role was towards the Western expansion of the United States, and the contributions that Haitians brought to this country. And I just thought it was an interesting juxtaposition when all of us were kind of staring at the map for the weeks leading up to election date. You see that the boat repeats itself, as well as the Negmaon, which is the Haitian symbol for the emancipation of the slaves. Justin, at the next slide. This piece is a male nude that I did. This is acrylic as well as pastel, something new that I'm trying out, kind of a mixed media approach. But you'll see that this was kind of early on in the pandemic when there was a lot of fear. And I don't know if that comes across, but that's what I see when I kind of see it in terms of fear and the color. That was like April-ish, this was kind of being put together. And the other side of this is typically you see female nudes portrayed in art. It's a little bit rare to see male nudes. So when I can find a model, I try to kind of incorporate, give a different view. Next slide, Justin. This one was my own interpretation of Black Lives Matter. This was kind of a little piece of clip art that I found, the silhouette, and I decided to kind of turn that into a painting, and showing some flowers and representing the beauty, but in that it wasn't only some of the flowers are dying to kind of show that that's part of life as well. It's not only just the things at its peak, but the entire cycle. Um, you can show this one is actually one of my favorites in that it's a portrait. I tend to not to like to do portraits of people staring at you directly in the face. I think when you're turned away, it resonates with people in a more universal sense. It could be anybody to you, In
Mhm.
this instance, I started this portrait, and they say that almost any portrait that you do, even if I'm doing a portrait, not even if it's not a self-portrait, ends up being a self-portrait in some way. You kind of put aspects of yourself in the image that you're creating. In this piece, it's interesting because when I look at it, it actually reminds me a lot of my 6-year-old daughter now, and what I would envision she'd look like as a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old. It has a lot of her energy. So it didn't start out being her, but in many ways, I feel like it's a teenage version of her. So I
Beautiful.
don't know how many more I sent. This was just other portraits as well. Again, you'll see eyes closed, and kind of playing around with geometric shapes, and trying to take a different aspect of the portrait. And I think, was there one more? We talked about this one, and I think that's it. If there weren't any others shared, so.
And Tara, this particular piece, yeah, you're right. When we were doing the Shakti goddesses amongst us exhibition, I remember I saw this piece and I was like, once you told me the reason for it, it was extremely moving because Shakti really is for all the women who survived in the bellows of the ship as they came over in the transatlantic slave trade. Um, And it was a very interesting moment for me as the curator of the exhibition on where to put it because it was its own thing. There were no figures in it, there was no obvious Shakti element to it, till you kind of thought about it or saw the name of the painting. And it really moved me in terms of there were these. The light that reflected in the sky was stunning, and I remember that we took a narrow beam and just put the light straight like that, going with the light of the skies. And it became a compelling moment of seeing all these beautiful representation of goddesses in your style and in Anshula's style. And then there was this one piece. It was a magic moment there. So thank you.
So
Uh,
much.
sorry, go ahead, Tara.
No, just saying thank you.
Thank you. We have a question. Can we save these assets as inspiration? Meaning that they probably want to use your, the art that you've done. Can they go to your website and get that?
Sure, it's some of these are not up. It's a mix of pieces, but it's taraartgallery.com.
Hmm. So another question, and we have a few minutes for it, is do you go back and forth to Haiti to continue enriching your art?
I wish I could go back more often. It's a little bit more difficult now. Probably the last time I went back was 2 or 3 years ago. And definitely every time you make that trip, it definitely informs everything that you do going forward, for sure.
Well, you and Rodney are responsible for getting me my honorary Haitian citizenship. So,
Already got it.
and I want to just take a quick second to welcome our youngest guest, Jensen Mensch. Uh, those of you who can see her, yeah, that's Justin's beautiful 15-month daughter with Ashley. Hi, Ashley. Hi, Jensen. She's usually not shy. Oh, fantastic. So Tara, thank you so much. Always an inspiration to see you.